Imagine your best friend of 10 years banning you from his wedding because you're gay, only to turn around and demand you live in his house for a month so he can go on his honeymoon. The audacity was bad enough, but when I said no, he didn't just get mad, he tried to destroy my entire life, and I honestly feared for my safety. I've been friends with my coworker, let's call him John, for a decade. We were close. Or at least I thought we were. But when the invites for his wedding went out, mine never arrived. When I finally asked him if it was a mistake, he looked me dead in the eye and said it was his fiancée's decision. She didn't want my kind there because her parents are homophobic and would cause a scene. I was devastated. I was standing there, visibly upset, and he had the nerve to put his arm around me and say, "I still want to be friends." He didn't speak another word to me until after the wedding. Then, out of the blue, he calls me. No apology, no, how are you? He just needed a favor. He told me he and his wife were going on a month-long honeymoon, and they needed someone to visit their house twice a day to take care of their cat. I was stunned. I told him, "There is no way I am doing that for you. You showed me exactly what our friendship meant to you when you cut me out of your big day." That's when he snapped. He was clearly drunk, and he just went off. He started screaming slurs at me, telling me I was going to rot in purgatory for my sins. I hung up, shaking. But he called again the next day, begging. Apparently, they hadn't found anyone else, and if I didn't do it, they'd have to cancel the trip and lose $15,000. Then his wife got on the phone. Her voice was sharp, accusing. "You don't understand what you're doing to us," she said. "John is a wreck. You're going to ruin his career if this stress keeps up." I closed my eyes, trying to keep my breathing steady. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not taking responsibility for something that isn't my problem. "It is your problem," she insisted. "You were friends for a decade. You think you can just throw that away over one little disagreement?" I almost laughed out of disbelief. "One little disagreement? You excluded me because of who I am as a human being. That's not a disagreement. That's you making it clear you don't see me as an equal." She sighed, sounding annoyed. "Look, the wedding is over. It's in the past. Can't we just move on?" "I'm not the one who needs to move on," I told her. "I'm fine right where I am." Her voice turned icy. "You're unbelievable. You're letting our happiness crash down because you're stubborn." "Fine. Be that way. But don't be surprised when you have no friends left. People talk, and you're not making yourself look good." The line went dead. I sat there, hands shaking, feeling completely isolated. I knew I was right, but it felt like I was the villain in their twisted narrative. Over the next few weeks, things at work went from awkward to terrifying. Every few days, I'd find something new on my desk. Bible verses about sin. Nasty notes scribbled on Post-its. Then it got violent. I found a small rainbow flag I kept on my desk slashed through with a knife. It felt surreal, like I was living in a horror movie where everyone turns against you. I went to HR every single time. I reported every incident. And every time, they dismissed it. "It's probably just a joke," the rep said, literally waving her hand at the shredded flag. "You know how people can be." She didn't get that to me. A slash flag wasn't a joke, it was a threat. So, I started documenting everything myself. Photos of the notes, logs of conversations. It felt paranoid, but I had to protect myself. Then came the night that changed everything. I came home after a rough day to find my front door ajar. I froze. I knew I had locked it. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I pushed the door open slowly. My living room was destroyed. Furniture overturned, papers everywhere. And on my wall, spray painted in huge, ugly letters, was a slur. I backed out, fumbling for my phone to call 911. When the police arrived, they were professional, but I could tell they didn't really believe me when I said it was my coworker. "Do you have proof?" they asked. "No," I admitted, feeling helpless. "But I know it's him or his wife." They filed a report, dusted for prints, and told me to stay somewhere else. I spent the night on a friend's couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had spiraled this far just because I said no. The next day, I called in sick. I couldn't face John.
but he called me.
Why are you doing this to me? He screamed into the phone. Why are you trying to destroy my life? I'm not doing anything to you, John. I shouted back. I'm trying to protect myself. Someone broke into my house. You're paranoid, he laughed, a harsh, cruel sound. No wonder you can't keep friends. People like you always end up alone. That hurt. It really hurt. But I hung up and refused to engage. A few days later, HR called me in. I walked into the conference room hoping for support, but instead, I found John, his wife, and a stern manager I'd never met. We've reviewed your complaint, the manager said coldly. John and his wife deny everything. We have no concrete evidence tying them to the harassment. I stared at her. I have photos. I have the police report. That's not direct proof, she said. Then she dropped the bomb. We think it's best if you resign. We can offer you a severance package to leave quietly. I felt cold all over. They were protecting him. They wanted me to quit. I looked at John, and he was smirking. I walked out of that room feeling defeated, but also angry. A righteous kind of anger. I took the severance package because I needed the money, but I didn't go quietly. I hired a lawyer. It was an uphill battle. Workplace harassment is hard to prove. But we built a case. We documented the HR negligence, the timeline of the threats, the break-in. While the lawsuit was pending, the harassment got worse. My car was keyed. My tires were slashed. And in the most gruesome twist, I started finding dead animals on my doorstep. It was psychological warfare. But we finally got to court. The trial was grueling. John and his wife lied on the stand, painting me as an unstable, obsessed person. But my lawyer was relentless. He caught them in lie after lie. Their stories didn't match up. The timelines were off. The judge saw right through them. In the end, I won. The damages weren't millions of dollars, but it was enough. It was validation. The court ruled in my favor. John and his wife were placed on probation, and while they weren't fired, their reputations were ruined. I took my settlement and moved to a new city. I started over completely. I made new friends, real friends, who accept me for who I am. John actually tried to contact me a few months later. He left these long, rambling voicemails about how sorry he was and how he wanted to make things right. I deleted them without listening to a single second. I didn't need his apology. Looking back, losing that friendship was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to find my spine. It forced me to realize that I deserve respect. I walked through fire to get here, but I'm finally at peace. But I have to ask, if a friend of 10 years did this to you, uninvited you for something you couldn't control, and then demanded a favor, would you have just walked away quietly? Or would you have fought back like I did? Tell me what you would have done in the comments. I really want to know.